So our next contestant, Richard, would you like to go?
Hi, Richard Bowden. Um, I'm going to talk about something that is someone who's feels that he's built in a complete disconnect from everything else, um, but he's really not. Elon Musk is worth $264 billion, and he just bought Twitter for $44 billion. I have no idea how much that money is. I really don't. Um, but I do know he's not a Buddhist. You know, one of the main goals in Buddhism is to ease the suffering of sentient beings. If he was a Buddhist, he probably would have spent that $44 billion on things like, I don't know, uh, easing world hunger, fresh water, sanitation, pollution, deforestation, you know, things like that. Oh, yeah, though I am glad, John, that he did not buy a robot weapons company called Cyberdyne Systems and start the apocalypse. Okay. um, yeah, you know, we all aren't Elon Musk, and I think though he feels like he's not interconnected with everything, he is. But we are not, but we as Buddhists we do know we're interconnected with things, and but so one of the principles as Buddhists we kind of live with is equanimity. What is enough? What is enough, and how do we define that? What is enough money to take care of our needs, our family's needs, our sanghas needs? Uh, um, you know, do we really, did he really need to buy Twitter? Do we really? I mean, one of my coworkers just bought a brand new Cadillac with shiny new wheels, and I'm like, yeah, did you really need to do that? Um, you know, um, and speaking of attachment, I mean, how attached are you to this money? Could Mr. Musk walk away from his billions like Prince Siddhartha did? He's probably as rich as Prince Siddhartha was back in when he was. That's attachment. How attached are you to these worldly things? These things, literally. Um, but are who's attached to who actually? Because this person who just bought this taxi, this Cadillac, um, or a red Tesla, whatever you want to buy, uh, he you have taxes you have to pay. You have to buy new tires for this thing. You have to buy fuel, and so you're it's kind of you're attached to it as much as it is as as you're it's a two-way thing here, uh, and or do you see it as it's not just or do you see it just as a way to get there and back without having to walk? Or do you buy into the commercial where it's this wonderful place where you can have this isolated world that that's yours alone, and has all this wonderful view of a beautiful world outside, flashing by. No, it's not. You know, it's just not that. You need to uh, look at these things in a realistic manner, in a unattached manner. Um, I've talked about right livelihood before. There's some fairly obvious ways to be exploited and to exploit people. I think most of the rich and richest people and the richest corporations find a way to exploit people. Unfortunately, I don't think that that's a topic we could go on and on and on about. Fairness and honest people probably make really good Wall Street brokers. They don't make really good Buddhists. Um, so, um, but because the main goal of Buddhism is to decrease the suffering of sentient beings, by in doing so, you decrease your suffering. Um, if you have, but we all don't have $264 billion to do that. But we do have the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the Three Jewels to help us. And the Inner Being, and the Indra's Net, and all those things that can help us see where we need to focus our energy and our time and our money. I do hope that Mr. Musk and us find peace where there is no dark, no light, and only pure for nirvana. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That was really interesting. Yeah, it would be nice if we could choose who had such power as Elon Musk has, because there's a tremendous amount of good he can do. Yeah, hopefully he'll become more stable. But it is a strange thing. I don't really understand. I mean, I do follow people on Twitter and look at it fairly regularly, but it's just bizarre to me. I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, what is the product? I mean, it seems like people could just like switch on the dime. I mean, like we're using Twitter now. Tomorrow we could use some other product. It was just a matter of consensus. And so like $44 billion for this, really? It's just, I don't know. It's very, very strange. This virtual asset is, there's really nothing there except for, what's in people's minds. Great bowing out.
But words are important. We say that in our precepts, so they can break a community. So, but so obviously that's one of the reasons why he paid that much money for it. But let's hope that it's comes out in the end for good.
It goes the way of MySpace.
Yeah.
John Ryan Yan. Incidentally, before the trip to the retreat, I did read a piece of information saying that, well, after Elon Musk buys some big portion of Twitter, Twitter put in some measure there, and he said, well, they don't want him to take over Twitter. So after the retreat, I came back home, and my daughter asked me, do you know that Elon Musk just bought Twitter? Is that really? So during that week, probably there's an agreement, and he bought Twitter. And my daughter comments that, well, his daughter gonna hate it because he has been trying to say, okay, his daughter, he doesn't want daughter to put so much stuff into her Twitter account. So now he had control on her Twitter account. Another piece of there's a commentary on the CNN recently on that, and they said that likely he gonna put some measure in to block all the pro Putin's groups to put stuff in Twitter, because a lot of stuff going on right now. There's not much regulation on Twitter on that, so they might have put some propaganda for Russian pro-Putin groups in there. So hopefully, there'll be some measure put in for that. That's what that comment on CNN is telling Xianbang out.
Alex, it was interesting that this week I just happened to be listening to a podcast about different philosophers. And I don't remember which philosophers talked about this, if it was Kant or Nietzsche, or I'm not sure, not important. What was important was the idea that the reason we have free speech is so that we have the opportunity to refute and discuss and debate. And what's missing now is this ability to refute, discuss, and debate in a civil way. But that freedoms, personal freedoms, are enhanced by free speech. And that but what we do with that free speech is what is important. And that's where we're failing. Alex, bowing out.
Jeff bowing in. Yeah, so I have feelings about the whole Elon Musk Twitter thing. From a try to keep my comments kind of from Buddhist perspective, in that from what he said, he actually wants to kind of increase free speech, but it seems that things that Twitter has put into place over the last couple of years, they've tried to help block, I think, more hate speech, block more of the known misinformation about vaccines and things. So it seems like they've been, from my limited understanding, trying to put in some things that may actually limit the harm of their platform. So to the extent that Elon Musk wants more free speech, meaning unregulated speech that may also contain more misinformation or more hate speech, it seems that would be a more harmful thing. So I hope that the kind of structure, governance, whatever it is of Twitter, can be wise and keep measures in place that allow free speech, but not, levels of misinformation and hate speech that are kind of harmful to the world in general. And kind of, who gets to decide that is always a question and a difficult thing, and it could be distorted or misused. But I certainly hope that wise people prevail there. But I do understand that he is buying it outright, so it's going to go from a public to a private company with him as the head. So he will have inordinate amount of power over what happens with Twitter, and putting that power in the hands or in the mind of one person, I think it ends up being more likely to go in some directions that may not be helpful. So that's my concern. Jeff Bond.
And I'm not trying to start a political argument with this. What I'm trying to point out is that everything is interconnected, like Ted and Bobby have pointed out, and that we do need to, because it's so interconnected, we need to use our best judgments, our best wisdom, our best concentration to understand what is going on in our world. We need to understand what resources we have and how to best use them to interconnect with, to maintain and prosper our connections we have that are good. And that was the point that I was trying to make. Um, Not to, yes, it is important, free speech, and who has power and who doesn't, and yes, and could he have done something different with this and that? Yes, of course. But yeah, we do need to be aware of these things and look at it from a Buddhist perspective. At least in my opinion, look at it from a Buddhist perspective and go, wow, how, what is enough for me? What is enough for, how do I interconnect with others, and what do I need to do to make sure that I'm connecting properly?
Well, daters, I'm sorry to say it's time to move on.